we try to work including the nature and environment into that, and the benefits are been also reaped by the is also been reaped by the beneficiaries. So we see that the emergence of sustainable development concept is as a response to the mining of the natural resources for the benefit of multinational corporations and has advanced the cause of long-term environmental management. So with this, with the concept of modernization, we see that, there is a disturbance in the ecology ecosystem. So wherein we see that, the sustainable development model plays an important concept. These are dynamically interconnected and constitute the detriments of resource development component. The second component of SDM is the resources development patterns, that is the use of land, water, and atmospheric resources. So we have to see that, this SDM, that is the sustainable development model, is something where it is trying to take into cognizance the environment, the nature, and the ecology, the whole ecosystem, and protect it so that, the upcoming generations also can enjoy that one. Then we see there are different perspectives on sustainable development. So what are those? There's one Western perspective and there's an Eastern perspective. So what exactly this Western perspective talks about? So a Western perspective represents the Brute Land Commission, and an Eastern is about the Buddhist perspective by Thai philosopher and monk from Jamapidok. So let us understand what is the Western perspective, the brute land. How did the sustainable development concept came? So if you see the Brute Land Commission in 1987, World Commission on Environment and Development, that is WCED, known as the Brute Land Commission, defined sustainable development as a development which meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So according to the Brute Land Commission, the sustainable development is a concept which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the future generations, ability to future generations to meet their needs. Core issues of Brute Land Commissions were identified as, population and development, control of population for the development, the food security, the species and ecosystem, the energy industry, and urban challenge were the focus area of the Brute Land Commission. So what are the initiatives to achieve this one? So a political system that secures effective citizen participation in decision making was the immediate need of this Brute Land recommendation. Then we see that economic system provides for solution for the tensions arising from disharmonious development. We also see that a production system that respects the obligation to preserve the ecological base for development. A technological system that fosters sustainable patterns of trade and finance, and also an administrative system that is flexible and has the capacity for self-correction, and a communication system that organizes and accepts by all parties concerned at all levels of society. So Brute Land recommended all those things for having a sustainable development. Now let us understand what is an Eastern perspective. Brute Land was an Western perspective, and this is an Eastern perspective. So Eastern perspective, according to Dhammapidok, he was basically a famous Buddhist monk and a philosopher who points out that the sustainable development in a Western perspective lacks the human development dimension. Yeah. He states that Western ideology emphasizes competition. Therefore, the concept of compromising is used in the above WCED definition. Compromising means lessen the needs of all parties. If other parties do not want to compromise, you have to compromise your own needs, and that will lead to frustration. Development will not be sustained if people are not happy. So consequently, reaches the conclusion that the Western perception of and road to sustainability based on Western ethics leads to development into a cul-de-sac. That is, it doesn't work out. So from a Buddhist perspective, sustainability concerns are ecology, economy, and evolvability. So the concept of evolvability means the potential of human beings to develop themselves into less a selfish person. So the main core of sustainable development is to encourage and convince human beings to live in a harmony and environment and not to destroy your surroundings. So if humans have been socialized correctly, they will express the correct attitude towards nature and the environment and act accordingly. And he further argues that a correct relation system of development kind is the acceptance of the fact that human being is part of the existence of nature and relates it to its ecology. Human beings should develop itself into a higher capacity to help his fellows and other species in the natural. So that means to address the balances between the ecosystem and the human being so that they can have an harmonious way and towards a happier world. So this holistic approach of human relates to cultural development in 3 dimensions. First one is behaviors and lifestyle which do not harm nature. Yeah. Minds in line with Eastern ethics, stability of mind, motivation to see other creatures as companions. Wisdoms include knowledge. Wisdom includes knowledge and understanding, attitude, norms, and values in order to live in harmony. So these are the 3 parameters that we see that the development can be achieved. So now let us understand what is sustainable development at a community level. This model is the result of extensive research which the Thai National Research Council commissioned to the Science and Technology Institute. More than 50 academics from governmental bureaus, universities, private sector, and community leaders from 5 villages of Thai were involved. It took them more than 7 years to arrive at what is being called the Thai concept of community development. This model views self-reliance of a community as a goal of community development. So self-reliance. Now, self-reliance of a community can be established if the following dimensions are taken into account. First is technology, economic, natural resources, mental and social, cultural factors. Then second one is a development and self-reliant process based on balance, ability, and networking. That is BAN. These 3 factors run together with the balance of each elements in terms and community management. What is terms? Technology, economic, natural resources, mental and social, cultural factors. So they both have to go in hand. Then this participatory action research as the process in which the facilitators and villagers collaborate through discussion, planning, evaluation, or research at all the times is part of this model. Then a re-socialization and a conscientization process, which makes the people turn to values and identities and cultures of that particular region would benefit the style of living. So as part of the Thai is concerned, it is about the Thai culture, the Thai identities, the Thai folk wisdoms, everything that benefits the Thai style of living. Then we have concept and critique of HDI. So apart from this sustainable development, we have HDI, that is Human Development Index, which is a statistical tool used to measure a country's overall achievement in terms of social and economic dimension. So Human Development Index is not a small thing, but it is measuring the overall achievement in its social and economic dimensions. The social and economic dimensions of a country basically are based on health of the people, level of education, attainment, and the standard of living. So when we are saying that, how are we measuring this HDI? This HDI is measured. This HDI is measured. One second. Measured with the health of the people, the level of education attainment, and the standard of living. I think this HDI, when we talk of India, our HDI is also very poor because our health sector is very poor. The education, though we are trying to put an effort, still we are lacking behind, and the standard of living always has a gap. So the HDI is the geometric mean of the following three dimensions: health dimension, where it is assessed by life expectancy at birth; then education dimension, many of years of schooling for adults aged 25 years and more, and expected years of schooling for school children. Then standard of living dimension is measured by gross national income per capita. So we see that, Pakistani economist Mehboob ul Haq created HDI in 1990, which was further used to measure the country's development by the UNDP. Calculation of the index combines four major indicators: the life expectancy for the health, expected years of schooling, mean of years of schooling for education, and GNI for standard living. So every year UNDP ranks countries based on the HDI report released in their annual report. We see that HDI is a summary measure of average achievement in key dimensions of human development. Yeah, the human development is a statistic composite index of life expectancy, education, and per capita income. We also see that, the HDI was being criticized on number of grounds, that including alleged lack of consideration of technological development or contribution to the human civilization, focusing exclusively on national performance and ranking, lack of attention to the development from a global perspective, measurement error of the underlying statistics and on the UNDP's change. So there were certain reasons for criticizing. These are the certain reasons that because of which HDI was criticized. So a critic over HDI. Sen and Haq have not been the only ones to point out that one of the primary attributes of HDI is its ability to draw attention away from the GDP and towards a wider concept of human development. So unfortunately or unfortunately, whenever we talk about development, we tend to calculate in terms of economic thing. So there is a critic where the human development is ignored. So as part of the HDI also, it was also stated that, human development should be a wider concept. Yeah. Over many years, many economists and other scholars have critiqued the HDI for this many other reasons. We see that Srinivasan sums up the viewpoints of several of his colleagues' writing. He says that, criticizes that as well being ill-informed and sound. This section summarizes the literature critiquing the HDI, changes in the HDI formula proposed by its critics, and the UNDP responses. Basically, we see that, this critics has 5 categories, that is poor data, incorrect, choice of indicators, various problems with the HDI formula. So what is the poor data? Poor data is something, one category of HDI, addresses is that, of the poor quality of data, particularly in terms of thoroughness of data collection and frequency of measurement errors. Srinivasan and Akman point out that the census data used to calculate are unreliable because of infrequency of census data collection. So the data collection is all related to the census. Then the wrong indicators. The second set of critics concerns the selection of components included in the composite HDI. This critic takes two closely related forms. First, the important indicators are missing from the HDI. And the second, those indicators included in HDI are the wrong ones. The former critic that variables important to explaining human well-being have been left out. It refers to the indicators related to 4 main areas, that is the extent of civil and political liberties, distribution of income, access to healthcare, and access to educational opportunities. So these are the where we see that there are wrong indicators. Then also we see there is a wrong specification. So when we say this wrong specification, we see that, it is a deprivation or moving goal poster. We see that HDI had minimum and maximum values for all the three components based on variable criteria, like the actual minimum and maximum in the current year, or an average threshold value. So we see that in 1994, the UNDP began using fixed goal posts to calculate HDI, 25 and 85 years of life expectancy, 0 and 100% of adult literacy, 0 and 15% of mean school years. So these are specifications that were being suggested. Then we also see that there is a redundancy. The final category of HDI critic was redundancy. Redundancy is where you give more excess of information. Suggested that the HDI are highly correlated and the HDI offers no new information beyond the readily available GDP per capita. The first group accuses the HDI of not accurately representing the concept of human development by ignoring important dimensions. Das Gupta and VL pointed out that HDI is an index restricted to socio-economic sphere of life, ignoring the political and civil spheres. To Ram, the HDI does not report inequality measures. Further, inequality among countries would be underestimated, if not given appropriate attention to the indicators. Then Hickers adds that inequality inside. So in a crux, we say that, there was redundancy. If one is considering the human development, then political is left. When the political is left, the economic is left. So here we see that, there were redundancy and inappropriate. So as you know, how do we calculate HDI? HDI is always calculated with the life expectancy. Yeah, this is what index and then actual value to the minimum value and then maximum value to the minimum value. So basically it takes the life expectancy from 25 years to 85 years, education and living standards in terms of per capita income. So when they are taking adult literacy, this is 0 to 100 and enrollment ratio is 0 to 100. And this is related to the education, and living standard per capita is GDP minus PPP. So human development classification, the cutoff points are less than 0.55 for low human development. So this is how, if we come to an understanding that how the HDI is being ranked. However, India climbed to position of 131 out of 189 countries in the last. So we are in the 130s number in the latest human development released by the UNDP, which put the country in the medium human development category. So we have very far away to go. Okay. But then we see that, Switzerland, Hong Kong are the lead rankers in the human development. So further, we'll lead to alternative model of development. As you understand that, what development has continued to influence the world politics, economy. Development, as we understand, it is related to the economic development. Later on, with the dominant paradigm, we came to know that it is socio-economic development, socio-political economic development. Then later on, we came to know that, no, it is with the ecosystem, we have a development. So there later on, apart from that, there have been also an alternative models of development. So the development process almost globally has shown a lack of sensitivity to the environment. So basically, we understand that the alternative models of development talks about the environment. This has led to lethal effects. Yeah, we have global warming and all those things, climate change, so many big summits are happening. So that is the reason why we are talking the development in terms of inclusion of the environment also. History bears testimony to the fact that some civilizations have died because of their reckless exploitation of the environment. An important element that is missing from most planning development is sustainability. Yeah, most of the developing countries are consciously or unconsciously trying to copy the West without any awareness on their resources and limits. So Alternative development suggests a course of development that is need oriented. So this is something where we are talking about the sustainability and future generations ability in terms of need oriented. So this alternative paradigm talks about a need oriented, where it should be endogenous, it should be self-reliant, it should be ecologically sound and based on the structural transformation. So rational utilization of the biosphere is built into this model. So what is that we understand by the need oriented? It is to be geared to the human needs, both material and non-material, starting with the needs of the majority of the world's inhabitants, the dominated and the exploited. So we have to ensure that the humanization of human beings by satisfying their needs of expression, creativity, equality, and conviviality, and to understand the master of their own destiny. Then self-reliant is something it would imply each society relies primarily on its own strength and resources in terms of its numbers and energies. Ecologically sound is something meant for utilizing rationally the resources of the biosphere in full awareness of the potential of the local ecosystem. Then based on the structural transformation, it requires more than in social relations. We see that economic activities and the spatial distribution in the power structure has to be self-management and participated, and there should be a participation in decision making by all these people. So approaches of development theory, in terms of theories, initially identified with the dominant paradigm approach and laid out clearly in central concerns and preoccupations. Theorist Everett M. Rogers argued that there is a shift in the focus of development in the new and alternative paradigm. The result of this paradigm is an alternative concept of communication. Some of the theories underway newer conception of development communication are self-development, the communication effect gaps, the new communication technology, and understanding the participatory approach of the new paradigm. So let us understand what is the self-development concept. This approach suggests concern for the involvement of the individuals in their economic and social life. So Roger has identified self-development in the context as some type of small group at the local level that takes the primary responsibility first for deciding what type of development is needed in the village or neighborhood, or for planning how to achieve this development goal. Then the third one is the obtaining whether government or non-government resources may be necessary, or for carrying out their own development activities where the concerns. Then here, this was different from the earlier top-down approach to development, which defined development in terms what government does and for the people. I think the microfinancing and all those things can be part of this one. Yeah. Then communication effects gap. The communication effect gaps concept has suggested that there is not only a gap in the socio-economic benefits of development, but there is a knowledge and information gap between have and have nots. That is that knowledge gap hypothesis, what we see, no? Information rich and information poor. So new technology communication and development, when we talk about the potential of new communication such as satellite broadcasting, cable television and computers facilitating the process of development in the countries is limited. But what is new about the technology is that the technology per se as the social technology of how the new communication devices are organized and used, and how the audience is organized to receive and discuss the messages. So definitely the technology doesn't have and have nots. Okay, but the information has have and have nots. Then the participatory communication model is a product of the criticism of vertical or top-down communication system. Essentially, all development programs are part of the development of human beings, and the assumption that planning and implementation of development programs should be carried out with the people and not for them. Therefore, there is a need for the participation communication. Dwakra groups and all those things are part of the participatory communication, and they have been proved as successful, and the world is also has come and studied about this group. So that means the participation communication model brings a change at the grassroots level, and it is always encouraged also. Now let us understand what are the different perspectives, Western and Indian perspective. Yeah. So development, when we say, when we say development, as we understand that, the government industry, the troika of government, industry, and media, think tank, and that they are the people who would be managing about their bad economic state, doesn't go well when it comes to the benefits and the reforms of the larger public. So therefore, we see that, there should be a certain free market policies that could be a solution for a country like India, and take into consideration the ground realities. Yeah. Capitalist economy policies have changed economies in United States of America, Greece, Mexico, Argentina, and other countries. But the same set of policies are followed in many other developing countries, including India. The alternative development approach assumes importance here because the mainstream media is deliberately ignoring some few views and cater to only a selected classes, and we see that who are concerned in alternative approach are forced to use alternative media. Yeah. So the main media might not work. Community media would only work for the community development in the rural areas, but whereas the main media doesn't work. At the same time, we also see there are ethical perspectives related to the development. So what do we mean by ethics? It is something which is dealing with the values, human conduct, and the respect to the rightness or wrongness of certain actions and the goodness. So we see that in terms of development, the physical, mental, and social and cultural, spiritual development of an individual in a free atmosphere should be there, and it should not be forced to be the part of the, as well, any theories or the models. They should be free of all those things. Importance would need to be given to preserving and sustaining local traditional cultures and other artifacts, as these are usually the media through which people try to talk about and understand the grassroots structure. Then we see that, development should not create greater misery for a large body of humanity. And the notion that when nations develop, they get rid of poverty, this is not true. On the other hand, it is in the nature of the development process to cause great poverty. So it is the method of development that causes poverty, and we have to see that, that any policy should continue and to come and work in balance so that, that the exploitation is been reduced. At the same time, we see there are certain issues in development. So issues in development are basically related to socio-economic, livelihoods, cultural, gender, and ecological problems of displacements. The problem of overpopulation has created unevenness with regard to migration, employment opportunities, standard of living, and styles of life. So there are, when we talked about development, there are many issues that are related to the development. Basically, for a country like India, we have also see that, there are socio-economic, livelihood, cultural, gender, ecological displacement problems also. See, for irrigation plant, like for Kalishwaram and all those things, there was a huge displacement. So those are part of it one. So howsoever, we see that, the environment plays a significant role to support life on the earth. There are some issues that are causing damages to life and the ecosystem of the earth. So it is not related only to the environment, but also everyone that lives on the planet. So when it is not only destroying the environment, but at the same time, the reciprocation, the impact and the consequences also on the human development. And therefore, we have to see that, this kind of ecological imbalances should be avoided. The problems of displacement, this is a huge problem of a displacement. When we say that, infrastructure is the key for the development of any nation or any region, so definitely those big roads, for example, we have a road that has been connected, that PV Narasimha Rao expressway, or these flyovers, or outer ring roads. All these are part of modernization and development. But at the same time, it is also it has led to the problem of the displacements. So development-induced displacement is a social problem affecting multiple levels of human organization, basically from tribal and village communities to well-developed urban areas, right? So even when we had a metro and all those things, especially we had an issue related. Now, I think even in the old city, there is an protest related to the what is this metro rail thing, and in the Koti also we have seen. So basically when we talk about a development, there is also a development that has induced displacement. So development is widely viewed as an inevitable step towards modernization and economic growth. However, for those who are displaced, the end result is most often loss of livelihood and impoverishment. So displacement risks are landlessness. Yeah, what do they get when they are displaced? It is without land, without job, without home. Yeah, there is a marginalization, there is a food insecurity, increased morbidity and mortality, loss of access to common property, and social disarticulation. Yeah, so we see historically it has been associated with the construction of dams for hydroelectric power and irrigation, but it can also result from various development projects such as mining, agriculture, the creation of military installations, airports. So any project that is related to the infrastructure development. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to balance, have an ecological balance, deforestation, conservation of projects of forest into the roads, all those things. Now, as part of the development, we also see that, you have SEZs, that is a special economic zone. So there are certain geographical areas where they cannot have a proper development. So this SEZs play a very important role. This economic growth is accomplished by leveraging tax incentives as a way of attracting foreign dollars and technological advancements. Yeah. So now you see in Andhra Pradesh, we have many SCZs because, those are some geographical areas where we don't get investment. So therefore, they cannot have an economic development. So they have developed these special economic zones to attract the investments so that they can have a macro level and socio-economic benefits. Then we have role of MNCs. Multinational corporations operate in many countries. After the LPG policy we see, that is liberalization policy in 1990s, India faced economic crisis, and to lift the country out of the crisis, rolled out economic reforms and hence opened and opted for economic liberalization. This allowed private investment and thereby MNCs to operate in India. So government has so many responsibilities such as alleviating poverty, providing social security, and develop the nation financially. So we see that MNCs help government in this case and bring a lot of foreign investment, which paves way for economic development of the country. In terms of unemployment, which is a major serious problem, so MNC provide employment. That is what we see, IT culture and all those things, a high-tech city. Then government will also generate revenue in forms of taxes, and that in MNC space. Then MNCs are also helpful in knowledge transfer as they operate in more than one country. They are practically tested and implemented the best strategies. So there is also a modernization of economic economic model. So economic growth can be defined as an country's GDP rate. Okay, GDP is most important indicator and can be used for comparison purpose. And the economies are in the same at the varied time periods. When a country records a positive economic growth, the production possibility curve shifts to the right, and this does not guarantee its economic development. But however, economic growth is not synonym to human development, which is realized. For a country or a nation to have developed economic-wise, it has to ensure that the environmental as well as the human aspect should go together. So the modernization theory emanates that technological advancement or a change or adoption of the technology. So our country is said to be modernized when it embraced modern and advanced technology. The modern theory of economic development was developed in 1960s, as we have read that, how the modern dominant paradigm has come. So in general, modernization theories are concerned with economic growth within societies as indicated. For example, by measures of gross national product. Mechanization or industrialization are ingredients in the process of economic growth. So modernization theories may define development mainly in terms of economic output per capita, or other theories may be more concerned about the development of autonomous productive capacity, equitable distribution of wealth, that is equality of wealth distribution. The dependency theory tries to explain why some countries remain poor for long periods of time and why they are underdeveloped. The dependency theory adopts the aspect of exploitation of the poor countries by the rich or powerful countries. This theory can be clearly explained by manner in which the European countries and the US countries have strong interest in the poor countries such as Iran and Iraq. The Sri Lanka is the best example, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. According to the dependency theory, underdevelopment is mainly caused by peripheral position of affected countries in the world economy. The neoliberalism theory of economic development argues that there is nothing special with the developed nation and that development is merely due to the adoption of right prices while letting the market forces work effectively. This neoliberalism theory emphasizes the role of a free trade and rational choice in economic growth and development. This is also called as neoclassical theory of economic development, which favors reduced government control in the economy due to the nation, and that state involvement in economy led to the inefficiencies that can deter the economic growth. So we see that mass media and modernization approach. This is a very important as part of the communication students. So when we are talking about the mass media and modernization approach, so media, which is supposed to be an important part of the democratic country, takes an alternative approach very rarely. So in India, mainstream media tend to go with the establishment. Barring few exceptions, mainstream newspapers, television channel appear to be endorsing capitalistic policies of the government, which we are very much aware. So when we are saying this, mass media and modernization approach, we have to see that what we are trying to understand is that, in the process of the development, the media plays an important role. So here we see that, there is an academic orientation in the alternative platforms. Journals like the Grassroots Journal, Seminar, Economic and Political Weekly, the Little Magazine have proved a platform for pressing social issues and alternative perspective available to tackle them. So in recent times, internet has given a hope, albeit a limited one, for people who believe that an alternative world is possible. Internet has in fact provided an alternative platform for discussion and deliberations. So media has to be part of the development process. Modernization and as individual change, it describes the process that increase the amount of specialization and differentiation, resulting in the move from an underdeveloped society to the developed, technologically driven society. So, modernization as an individual change is basically adoption of the technology at one personal level. The level of modernity with the society is judged by the sophistication of its technology, particularly as it relates to infrastructure industry. It is important to note that inherent ethnocentric bias of such assessment. So we see that, even the modernization and an individual change is also very important. Now, ICT for sustainable development. As we understood, sustainable development is something where it will help to build the future generation and the ability to access the general common natural resources. So here we see that, okay. Technology enables internet, for instance, to have better reach. We have to see ICT is what information communication technology that can be used. So we have online communities like virtual communities. Our virtual classroom is also part of the ICT technology only. So we have websites and blogs which can be used for debates and discussions, and mostly NGOs will be using that one. So we can say that, ICT is an important role. See, policy is one form, and issues are the other form, but to connect the both, the communication is very important. So the traditional communication, the ICT and communication plays a very important role. And we see that, the development communication and the development support communication have been successful because we are trying to use the media that suits that particular region and bring a change and develop that particular society. So this is all about our models of development. So in the coming up week, we'll learn about the development in society. I hope I'm clear with the topics and issues. And if you have anything, please let me know. So I'm ending the lesson here, rather meeting here. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Good day.
Hello. What happened, dudes? అందరు సైలెంట్లు ఉన్నారు. రేణుబాయ్ సీనన్నా హలో
హలో
అన్నా
హలో
శశాంక్ అన్నా మాట్లాడేది.
శశాంక్, వాట్ ఇస్ గోయింగ్ ఆన్? థర్డ్ సెమిస్టర్ చెప్తున్నా. ఇంతకుముందు
అవును,
థర్డ్ సెమిస్టర్
అవును
క్లాస్
అన్నా.
అయిపోయింది అన్నారు లాస్ట్ టైం.
అంటే కొన్ని పెండింగ్లు ఉండే,
ఆహా.
ఒక 1 క్లాస్ అట్లా పెండింగ్లు ఉండే.
ఉమ్.
యా 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 అందరు క్లాస్ విన్నారా? అయ్యా ఇంకెవరైనా ఉన్నారు?
ఏమన్నారు? బుక్
ఏందన్నా?
మొత్తం చూసి చదువుతున్నావు కదా మేడం?
మొత్తం డైరెక్ట్ యాంకర్ లాగా ఎప్పుడు వెళ్ళిపోతూనే ఉంది.
చెప్పుడు కూడా కదా, బుక్ చదువుతుంది అంతే. అదేదో నువ్వు చదువుతావుగా,
అంతే కదా.
నువ్వు చదువుకోలేవు బుక్ చూసి?
మరి 2 నిమిషాలు అయిపోతుంది ఇంకా.
మరి
అసలు దానికి సంబంధించింది ఏంది, మ్యాటర్ ఏంది, పిక్చర్ ఏంది,
ఏదో మనం
చెప్పింది లేదు.
అదే మనమే చదువుకోవచ్చు క్లాస్ విన్న దానికంటే.
అంతే అంతే అంతే. అందుకనే మన వాళ్ళు కూడా కొంతమంది జాయిన్ కారు.
క్లాస్ అంటే మామూలుగా జర అర్థమయ్యేటట్టు చెప్పి మంచిగా చెప్తే బాగుంటుంది.
అవును,
ఇట్లా కాకుండా లేదో చెప్పేసినాం అయిపోయింది అంటే
తిన్నామంటే తిన్నాం, పన్నామంటే వన్నామంటే అయిపోయాయి.
చదువు కూడా మనమే చదువుకోవచ్చు కదా. ఏదో గంట సేపు చదివితే మనకే వస్తుంది. దీని గురించి పర్టికులర్లీ టైం కేటాయించి వినుడు సబ్జెక్ట్ ఏం ఉండదు.
కరెక్ట్ అన్నారన్న.
మంచి ఎగ్జాంపుల్ చెప్పి ఏదన్నా వేరే మెథడ్ లో అర్థమయ్యేటట్టు చెప్తే లెక్చర్ అంటారు దాన్ని. కానీ ఈ బుక్ చూసి చదువుకుంటా అదేవరు మన ఆయన ఉండే చూడు ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ లో
ఎవరన్నా?
ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ లో ఫస్ట్ క్లాస్ చెప్తున్నా చూడు, ముస్లిం అతను.
ఎప్పుడంటే నేను మొన్న అటెండ్ అయిన తప్పించే క్లాసులు ఇప్పుడే అటెండ్ కాలేదు.
ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ మనకు మామూలుగా ఇట్లా ఆన్లైన్ కాకుండా డైరెక్ట్ ఉండే కదా,
ఆఫ్లైన్ క్లాసెస్. ఓకే.
ఇక ఆయన బుక్ ముంగడ పెట్టుకొని చదువుతూనే ఉంటుండే అంతే, ఇక వేరే చెప్పేది ఏం లేదు. ఇక మనకు మొత్తం మీద ఒక 2-3 మంచి చెప్పారు అప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ లో.
మొన్న కూడా ఒకరిద్దరు స్టఫ్ మంచిగా చెప్పారన్న. శిశిరక మేడం ఒకరు.
నేను లాస్ట్ 2 టైమ్స్ ఇవ్వలేదు. లాస్ట్ 2 టైమ్స్
ఆఫ్లైన్ క్లాస్ లోనే మంచిగా చెప్పారు. నేనైతే ఆన్లైన్ ఇప్పుడే
పీజీ క్లాస్ కి వచ్చిన తర్వాత నేను వినలేదు. అయిందా లంచ్ అయిందా?
లేదన్నా, ఇప్పుడే. నేను ఏందన్నా
కాలే చేయాల.
ఓకే, మార్నింగ్ నుంచి ఉన్నారా క్లాసెస్ లో?
నేను ఇప్పుడే వచ్చిన, ఈ క్లాస్ కి వచ్చిన. మేడం మొత్తం న్యూస్ చదువుతుంది.
సేమ్ 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 ఇట్లనే ఉంది.
సర్లే కనీసం అదన్నా చెప్తారు సంతోషం, అదన్నా చెప్తారు సంతోషం అంటారు.
అంతే అంతే అన్న. ఉన్నామని చెప్పేసి గుర్తించారు.
స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉన్నారనే. స్టూడెంట్స్ కూడా ఎవరు లేనట్టు కదా. 6 మెంబర్స్ 7 మెంబర్స్ ఉన్నారు అంతే. హలో
హలో
శశాంక్, 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 శశాంక్.
హలో అన్న అన్న అన్న, నాకు వేరే కాల్ వచ్చినుండే, అది కట్ చేసిన. చెప్పండి.
లే మామూలుగా మైక్రో శశాంక్
అన్న, మన వాళ్ళు ఒక 10 మంది ఉన్నారు కదా. ఇంతకుముందు 10 మెంబర్స్ ఉండే.
ఏమో 6 మెంబర్సే కనిపిస్తారు ఇప్పుడు.
అవును.
సిక్స్ మెంబర్ నాతో 7 మళ్ళా మన ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ దే ఉన్నట్టు బీఆర్ఏ ఇంకొకటి కనెక్షన్ హైదరాబాద్ అని.
అవును వనంలో సినిమా కూడా ఉన్నాడు.
ఇద్దరు 5 మెంబర్స్ ఉంటారు అంతే. మళ్ళీ ఎన్ని గంటలకు టైం
తెలియదు. నా లెటర్ ఇప్పుడే వచ్చిన, నేను ఆ లింక్ చూసి వచ్చిన ఇట్లా. నాకు తెలిసి ఇప్పుడు లంచ్ బ్రేక్ అనుకుంటున్నా.
అదే లంచ్ అయినాక చేద్దాం.
డన్ అన్న.
ఓకే డన్.
ఓకేనా బాయ్.
ఐఎమ్ లివింగ్.
ఓకేనా బాయ్ అన్న.
Anybody else, sir? Sir, anybody else on this group? Sir, anybody else on the group? Hello?